Well, here's a little steam engine that's been sat on my to-do shelf for a very long time. According to the still pictures that I took of this, I got this one about 6 years ago. So, yeah, I've been meaning to get to this for some time, and today's its day. So, what we have here is a Weeden Model 17. And this could be a very, very old model steam engine, because these were first made in the 1890s. That's right, 1890s, and they stopped making them in 1933. So sometime in that window, that so this could easily be 100 years old, this engine. Now, it's not in bad condition actually. It's missing a few parts, the smokestack and the safety valve, and obviously there should be a pin which is broken off coming out the top here with a dummy governor on it. It's also missing, well, part of the crank is there, but most of it's missing, and so is the end of the piston rod. But other than that, the burner's there. I'll hoik the burner out in a minute so you can have a look at it. It's not in bad condition. These are quite interesting construction, these. Obviously you've got a brass boiler, tin plate, firebox. This looks like it's chromed or nickel plated steel. The base is steel, but the legs are cast from lead. These legs, these fancy legs here, and I think it's someone's painted it. I don't think it was originally that colour. And the other thing that if anyone is restoring one of these, you need to be very careful with. The whole engine frame, all of this is cast from white metal, so don't get any heat near this because it will simply turn into a puddle. I've done one of these before, not the 17, but something very, very close to it, and I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, it's I think it shouldn't be a problem getting this thing going. Oh yeah, obviously the sight glass is missing, but the sight glass fittings seem to be in quite good condition. So hopefully we can take those apart, and if I've got some glass, we can actually put the glass back in. So that will be good. But I'll bring in the other one that's similar to this that I restored, and you can have a look. So there's the 17 next to the 661. This one was quite difficult restoration. This entire engine mounting frame here was snapped in half, and I had to glue it back together using chemical metal, which works amazingly, and it runs just nicely. But it helps you see what the sight glass should look like. Obviously, there's the sight glass on that one. Very, very thin glass tube missing on that one. It also shows you the dummy governor on the top there, and the brass pin that should stick out from there. These are very, very similar. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it doesn't utilise exactly the same engine frame. All of these parts probably exactly the same, even the engine frame mount. But obviously, this one has got a very different base to this one, and this is electrically heated, whereas this one's got a meths burner. But they are very, very similar. As I said, I think this part here is completely identical. So I'll zoom in on the crank and the piston rod end so you can see what's missing. So as you can see, there is no piston rod end and no crank. That is part of the crank, but all the rest of it has gone. So if we now sweep across and have a look at the 661, there you go. So you can see quite clearly see the crank here and the round piston rod end. Should be fairly simple to make one of those, a bit fiddly because it's very small. But the crank, well, at this point I have to give a big shout out to a fellow model steam engine collector called Richard, who lives in the United States. And he very kindly sent me a small box containing a load of parts for Weeden steam engines and some parts for Empire steam engines. So thank you very much, Richard, because one of the things he sent me, in amongst that lot, was some Weeden cranks. And there is a brand new old stock Weeden crank. So I don't have to make that. Isn't that amazing? And this is absolutely tiny. There is my finger, so you can see how small that is. So that was really useful. And I also have, somewhere in the box of parts, I have a Weeden safety valve, which of course is also missing from our engine. So yeah, that's going to help me immensely, as I've just really got, all I've got to do is make the end of the piston rod and a new smokestack. One other thing with this is the steam pipe is actually detached from the boiler, which actually helps me quite a bit because I need to take this off, and I'll tip it up so you can see the underside. So here's the underside, and the mess burner, you just swivel that out of the way, and then the mess burner simply pulls out, and there you go. That's the mess burner, all covered in dust. It's not been out of there for a long time. Now, the way that the entire engine mount fixes onto the base plate is just by some bent metal tabs, and I'll zoom in on those. So that's one of them there, and the other one is opposite it up the top there. So you just got to bend those and out the way, and then we should be able to remove the entire engine frame. Well, it needed a little bit of persuasion, a gentle tap with the copper hammer, but it's off. As you can see on the underside, the engine frame is designed to come away from the mounting plate by rotating it about I don't know, 30 degrees, and there are 4 slots in the metal plate that line up with 4 tabs on the actual cast base, but someone has soldered this in place, and I'm not surprising because these have a habit of coming loose. So I'm not going to disturb that because I don't think I need to remove that from the base. I'm just going to give this whole thing a gentle clean up and replace the crank, try and pull that crank off, and then replace that with the new one and put a little brass rod on the end of the piston rod, so that will engage, and then attempt to get that little brass, what's left of the little brass, that should pull out of there. This should pull out, and I can put a new one in and then put a new dummy governor on it, and then just basically just clean this up. I'm not going to do anything else with it. So yeah, I'm not sure how the boiler and firebox attaches to the base. I'm going to have to, it may be soldered in place. I'm going to have to clean that paint off and have a look, see whether it will give me some indication. So I would really like to take that off of there if I possibly can, so that we can do some work on the actual metal base. But that's where we are at the moment. A little progress with the Weeden 17. Obviously I've taken it apart a certain amount now. Well, let's have a close look at the engine and the engine frame first. So I very carefully cleaned this. I used some warm water and a toothbrush to start with to get the dust off. Then I used a cotton bud and a little bit of acetone to clean off any oil marks and things like that, and a little bit of metal polish on the main engine support bracket, and it's come up quite well. You very carefully went over the flywheel with some wire wool. You've got to be careful because this is very soft and it's all too easy to bend this, so you need to be very careful when doing that. But it's come up all right. I'm not going to do any more cleaning on that. That's fine. And I'll close in on the crank for you. Now, I was lucky with the crank. I was able to use a soldering iron and melt the solder that was holding the original crank on, and it came off quite nicely, and I simply put the new crank on and used the soldering iron to solder that in place. So that's now in there, and that's on, and that's all fine. So all we've really got to do now with the engine, is to make the new piston rod end. So that's what we're going to do next. Now, I know I go on a lot about this oven mate, which I use as my main paint stripper, but it is bloody amazing stuff. All I did with this was I coated the base in it and the firebox, and also inside the firebox and the base of the boiler, and I just let it soak in this stuff for about an hour. I didn't use any wire brushes on it or anything. I just used the nylon brush that comes with the oven mate, and after an hour I gave it a good old agitation with the brush, washed it off in warm water, and well, I mean, the results just speak for themselves. It's quite incredible. It's removed all of the paint 99% of the paint from the base. It's removed. It was all of the soot and crud that was on the inside of on the base of the boiler. That's all come off, and inside the firebox all come off, and it's also removed most of the paint from the firebox. So yeah, and effortlessly. I mean, it just literally fell off. So it was just brilliant. So now we've got a decision to make. What do we do with this? Now, I think as you can see that the firebox is soldered to the base, and I could unsolder it. It would certainly make cleaning the boiler and the base easier. The next stage of cleaning, that is, but it's not really going to, other than that, it's not really going to give me any advantages. Obviously, I would like to repaint the firebox, but I'd have to do that after I'd soldered it back on anyway. I can't paint it off and then solder it back on, because it will just ruin the paint, even though I would use high temperature engine paint for this. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go around this with a small wire brush and clean up the firebox a bit more. I'm going to polish up the base, and if it comes up okay, I may well just leave it. I might not do any painting at all. I mean, the cast lead feet have come up really well just by cleaning the paint off, so I may just go ahead and clean this. Now, I've had a go and I've loosened off the fittings for the sight glass. I haven't taken them right off yet, so I don't know what state they're in. Oh, there's a bit of broken glass in that one, so obviously it has, the glass has been snapped off, but hopefully if I've got some that's the right diameter, I should be able to repair that. So clean up this, that's something to do, but I think the next stage will be to make the end for the piston rod.